Wow, what a big pig. Crazy. How long have you been growing that?
It's about a year.
Oh, it's probably when I planted my plant that's about to.
We plants about to.
Build? It's like I planted it out of season.
Fruit trees are supposed to.
It's not fruit tree. It's like a produce like
Okay, you want to put the link on the.
Those big guys, I don't know.
One.
Try
Maybe we did,
It's okay.
איך אני אומר צמאמן?
Break.
I did with the bread and then by the end everything was like a bread sauce. So I kind of go and trying to grow it up again.
Yeah.
About 3 years that it gets.
Yeah, I think this is about where it tops out.
No, so I get one really long and after I thought it just didn't grow up and.
What about work? Better make people look right there. Make so
Remembered the trauma.
No, we just like, yeah, we just started strong, we say fire.
It was super long.
Let's go what you do.
Okay, so we're in the middle of chapter 23, Kaf Gimel.
Page 96, right?
We're up to the words in the Hebrew. We're up to the words Umei Achash Ratzon Ha'elyon. It's by the Kaf Beis Shvat little symbol on the side of the page. See what I'm talking about? Little siman of something. Umei Achash Ratzon Ha'elyon.
That's a good deal.
All at the top of the page. Top of page Kaf Tet 98.
Okay.
Top line. Yeah.
Okay, I know you don't drink coffee, so I would offer, but.
Thank you.
Change.
So the Alter Rebbe is describing how Torah and mitzvahs help you connect to Hashem. So the mitzvahs help you connect to Hashem because the mitzvahs, performing mitzvahs is like, each mitzvah is like a limb of Hashem. Just like the body has 248 limbs, there are 248 active, positive mitzvahs. That's a way of understanding the idea that the mitzvot are the limbs of Hashem, meaning that when you perform, for example, the act of tzedakah, your hand, your arm becomes enclosed, it becomes a vehicle for the mitzvah of tzedakah, for Hashem's will. So in that way, you become a vehicle to the will of Hashem. That's with the performance of a mitzvah. Then the Alter Rebbe started to explain how learning Torah is even a greater kind of connection to Hashem because you become one with Hashem. So by the mitzvahs, with regards to mitzvahs, it says that mitzvahs are the limbs of Hashem. But when it comes to Torah, it says that the Torah and God are literally one, are all one thing. So we're in the middle of explaining how Torah and Hashem are one and what that means to us. What that means essentially. So the idea that Torah and Hashem are one, we had at the beginning of Tanya.
I mean,
We talked about that.
everything is one.
But there's always levels of what we call separation, meaning
Perceived separation.
right, meaning concealment. But in Torah, it's absolutely Hashem. It's His will. When the Torah says, put a mezuzah on your door, that's Hashem's desire, right? That's what Hashem wants. So you're speaking Hashem's words and you're feeling Hashem's feelings. You're wanting Hashem's wants, right? When you read or when you study words of Torah. So if the words of Torah, remember that earlier in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe quoted from Rambam, where it says that unlike a person who has his or her intellect, and then separate from that, you have your ideas. In Hashem, you can't separate that out. It's the ideas and the intellect and the him are all one. It's all the same thing. You can't separate. It's not divisible. So if I am thinking Hashem's thoughts, if I am reading Torah and studying and comprehending Hashem's desires, then I am literally merging with Hashem. That's what we're in the middle of studying. So on top of page, what was it? 96, 98? 96?
No, it's 98.
98? ומייחד שרצון האל ינם ייחוד בין סף ברוך הוא בתכלס הייחוד. הוא בגיל לגמרי ולא בהסתר פנים כלל וכלל. Because since the desire of Hashem, since Hashem's will, which is one with Hashem absolutely, is completely open and revealed without any kind of concealment, benefesh olikis, in the godly soul, ulevusheha, and its garments, hapnimium, the inner garments, not speech and action, but even thought. Shehem machshava v'dibura, I'm sorry, which is thought and speech. So the inner garments of speech and thought are completely one with Hashem in the moment that you're studying Torah. Therefore, haregam hanefesh ulevusheha elu. Therefore, also the nefesh and its garments also become merged into a oneness with Hashem in that moment. So you have an incredible connection, an incredible merging with Hashem when you study and use, not just reading words of Torah, but actually grappling with and trying to comprehend. And it's an amazing oneness, like the oneness of Hashem's speech and thought with Hashem himself. Kanal, as mentioned earlier, remember we were talking about the difference between Hashem's speech and our speech. Remember, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how when a human being speaks, the speech leaves the person, and now it's something separate. Whereas when Hashem speaks, it remains absolutely one. There's no separation. So the fact that Hashem and his speech are always absolutely one, that's how merged my intellect becomes with Hashem's desire in the moment when I'm studying Torah. That's a pretty amazing connection. We're on page 98. In addition to that, that this oneness is greater and stronger than greater than the oneness that the higher worlds, the spiritual worlds, feel with Hashem. If you remember, the spiritual worlds are those places where Hashem's divine creative energy is not concealed like it is here. So there they feel their connection when they experience a revelation. When those worlds, I don't mean to imply some kind of we're not talking about Martians, we're not talking about aliens and those other worlds. When those worlds themselves, those levels of spiritual existence feel Hashem, they feel it for real.
And we don't?
And we don't.
Okay, because it's a whole different illusion.
No, because we have a neshama that's stuck inside, begalut, exiled into a body. And the body blocks out any of our sensitivity to holy things.
So then when we study Torah, we get back to that sense.
Right. But not the sense as an awareness of, but a connection. You have that connection.
What happened to one of Cohen's sons?
That's when they
really feel it.
They had too much revelation and they
Kilot
nefesh. Yeah. When Aaron's two sons went into the Holy of Holies and they expired in ecstasy.
Inside, no?
Yeah, we're going to mention something like that.
So if that's what Hashem wants, ideally, that you just sit and study Torah, why all the...
Let's read.
And the rest of the world,
All the other stuff.
why not just Torah and books and tables?
Who's going to make the tables?
You see what I'm
Who's going to
saying?
print the books?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't do all just that.
So look, we're going to learn more about that. So the connection that you have with Hashem, with Hashem's wisdom and Hashem's desire, which is one with Him, in the moment that you're studying Torah, is a greater connection than the connection, the oneness that is created between Hashem and the spiritual realms, the spiritual worlds. However, in other words, we feel separate from Hashem because we have the shell, the kalipa of the body. In the spiritual worlds, there is no such kalipa, no such shell blocking out the light of Hashem. Whatever light Hashem gives them, they receive. Nevertheless, when we, with all of our spiritual numbness, with all of our spiritual ignorance or whatever, when we study Torah, the connection we create with Hashem is greater than any connection that can be created in the spiritual world. The angels and the souls in the spiritual worlds can't create that kind of connection. Because because the will of Hashem is literally revealed. It's open and it's out in the open, literally, in the nefesh that is studying Torah. When you're studying Torah, your soul is experiencing this clear connection with Hashem without any shaharei hu haTorah atzma, because that is the Torah. The will of Hashem that you're reading is the Torah, and that's what you're reading. All the try to track this, follow the logic here. All of the worlds, all the spiritual realms that Hashem creates, He creates them with Torah. Torah is the tool, if you will, that Hashem uses to create those worlds, which means they spoke the words of Torah. He was speaking Torah.
So
He was
Torah
speaking through
is the first 5 books.
Torah. Here we're talking about Torah as in the whole world, the whole sea of Torah. I mean, the whole everything of Torah.
So Rambam is Torah.
Everything. Torah is the will and the wisdom of Hashem. And like it says in the Torah, kulam bechachma asisa. Actually, we say it in davening also. It's from Tehillim. Kulam bechachma asisa. Hashem made all of the worlds with chachma. What is chachma? Hashem's chachma. Chachma means intellect, wisdom. If Hashem made the worlds with His wisdom, what is His wisdom? Torah. So Hashem made the worlds with Torah. In other words, Torah is up here, and through Torah, Hashem channels creative energies to create these worlds. So the worlds are definitely on a lower spiritual level than Torah, because they were created from Torah.
The son can be greater than the father.
That's because the son has his own nefesh.
Right, so, but I mean, even if he get created by the father, so should this word? I mean, if it's getting from a higher,
it's an interesting analogy. But the person is created by a father and a mother and by Hashem, and Hashem puts in a neshama that can be anything. The mother and the father don't create the nefesh; they create the body.
The body can still come prettier.
Hmm?
So it can still come prettier.
Better looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's younger.
Right? Children, it's the comedian who says, somebody said, I have a picture of myself when I was younger. And I said, aren't all the pictures of yourself when you were younger?
Like Mickey.
Anyway, if so, if it's true that the worlds, even the spiritual worlds, are all created from Chachma, if so, the Chachma, which is Torah, is higher than all of them because it's the source of those worlds. And that is the will of Hashem, Hanikra Seviv Kalamin. The Torah from which the world was created is the will of Hashem, which is called, it's that level of the will of Hashem that is called Soviv Kalam. Soviv Kalam means it surrounds the world. Shehi, I'll explain that in a second. Shehi, which is Bechino Masha'ena Yochel Hislabish B'Teicham. And that is that aspect of holiness, of godliness, that cannot be enclosed in the world. Rak Mechaye Umeir Lamaila B'Bechinas Makif, only it gives life and it shines from above, from a transcendent place, from Makif surrounding. What that means is that there are two different ways in which we receive energy from Hashem. I mean, there are many ways, but they're basically in two categories: Makif and Pnimi. Makif means the light that surrounds. Pnimi is the light that's present, not transcendent. The difference is the light that is Makif is. We studied this earlier in Tanya, if you recall. The light that is makif is not tailored to the particular creation. It's a very general kind of life force. It gives existence, but not specific identities and tailored existence. It's just very general. The fact of your existence comes from the or makif. The reason is because it's so high. It's so great, it's so tremendous that it's too big to be involved in the little details of who you are and what you need. It's makif, it's like transcendent. The other kind of energy that we get from Hashem is the or pnimi, which is much more tailored and also a much lower level of revelation. So what we're talking about here about the chachma that creates the worlds, specifically we're referring to that level of Hashem's will or wisdom that is soivev kalam, and that's the higher and therefore less tailored, less specific to the world, but by the same token, it's also much bigger. This is a tremendous revelation. And that light that is so great that it cannot come into the world, it can't come into creation in any kind of practical way, it can only radiate from outside. That's the light of Hashem that you are taking into your soul and merging with in your soul in the moment that you study Torah.
Wait, the second one is the one?
The higher one.
Oh, I thought the other one was.
So you study Torah, what you're merging with, the level of godliness that you're merging with is greater than the godliness felt in the spiritual worlds, because the spiritual worlds receive their light from the Or Makif. It's just a light that comes from that higher level. But when I study Torah, I'm merging my soul, the chachma of my soul is merging with that level of godly revelation. My soul is merging with a level of godly revelation that is so great that the spiritual worlds can't receive that, or can't internalize that. It's external. It's makif. It's transcendent. It's literally revealed in your soul when it's open and in a state of revelation when you're studying Torah. Now, what about the fact that you don't feel it, you don't see it? You know, we're studying Torah and we're having all this awesome revelation right now, but I don't feel it. I'm not experiencing it, right? So even though you don't see it, nevertheless, know that it's there. And there's a story in the Gemara about Daniel. The people around him, when he had this great revelation, everybody around him was knocked off their feet, and they didn't understand why. It was because of this revelation, even though they didn't see it. The expression comes from that story. But the Alter Rebbe says in the parentheses, the fact that you don't see it is actually a favor. It's actually a good thing. Umishum hachi, and it's because of this It's because of the fact that you can't see this revelation that you can actually receive it. Whereas in the higher worlds, they do see. Because here, like we said before, because here our souls, our nefesh is I don't want to say blinded, but is our eyes are covered by a physical being. We can't see spiritual. That's why we can receive that kind of revelation in our neshama, because if we could see it, we couldn't handle it. In the spiritual worlds, where there isn't the physical body and there isn't the veil over the eyes of the spiritual, the angels and the souls that are in those spiritual worlds, because they don't have the concealment that we have, that's why they can't handle this kind of revelation.
Like Hama ben Artika.
So,
Yeah,
Same idea. If we're gonna get the sun directly,
right,
we're not gonna enjoy it.
right.
so the fact that is unclear or that is covered from us is what gives us the opportunity to really handle it.
I don't want to be negative or crass, but it's like Novocaine. If you put somebody to sleep, then you can operate on them. Why? Because if you operated them when they were awake, they couldn't handle it. So that's in the negative. You have to numb the person from the pain. But you could also numb a person to great spiritual revelation. How? By completely blocking out the sensitivity of the neshama from the body so that the person is totally unaware of what they're going through. They can receive that benefit just like a person who's put to sleep can receive a painful surgery in the opposite side of the.
So there are many ways to feel that feeling of presence or of existence of neshama. I don't know about the many actually, but like people use rebirthing or psychedelics, or there are ways that are not Torah, and I never really studied Torah, I guess, to a point that like you feel the pleasure of it. But that was a pleasure. So why?
Who says you're supposed to be having pleasure? That's not the goal. The goal is to connect to Hashem.
Right, and that connection is what's fulfilling.
Yeah, but not necessarily the pleasure of it, because the pleasure of it can distract you from Hashem. Because you're focused on your experience instead of on Hashem.
Meaning connection is just connection. There's no feeling. It's ambivalent, right?
Not ambivalent, it's just not distracted. You're not distracted by your own experience of it. It's like the story that they say about the Tsar, the Russian Tsar was inspecting his soldiers, and as he passed one row of soldiers, there was one soldier who was so in awe, so awestruck by the Tsar that he passed out cold, fainted, just out of sheer admiration and awe for the king. So they revived him, he stood back up, and the king, the Tsar, threw him out of the army. So people ask, why are you throwing him out? He respects you more than anybody. So he said, I don't need soldiers in my army who pass out when they're awestruck. He's a soldier. You're supposed to stand up straight. And so the fact that you fall on your feet and scream kadosh, kadosh, kadosh when you perceive God, that makes you a good angel, not a good person. You're not supposed to get excited with your experience. You're supposed to serve Hashem. So the fact,
That's very big.
that's why we're not, if Hashem wanted us to experience godliness the way the angels did, he wouldn't put us in a body. This is all part of the plan, that we're not supposed to feel it. So that you can serve Hashem, he can get what he needs from you without you getting all...
It seems like it'd be difficult to separate the reaction from what it's supposed to be or what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, so we're not given the ability to experience the awesomeness of it because we would not be able to handle it. So even if there were ways to get a glimpse of what we think it might be, if you can get that glimpse and then and survive the experience, then it wasn't the real thing. Because if it was the real thing, then like Nadav and Avihu, you would die. You would simply, the neshama would not be able to stay in a body.
And then Aviv, they put a ktoret.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what?
They brought incense to Torah.
The son of Aaron, sons of Aaron Cohen, they get into the
Kodesh
holy,
HaKodashim,
holiness, not holiness,
Holy of Holies.
holy of holies, and they get so high experience with God that they just pass away.
Yeah. It really sounds like ecstasy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, same idea.
But ecstasy in godliness means the soul simply cannot stay married to the body. It can't handle physical. It
Mhm.
needs to be back in the spiritual, so the person dies.
Mhm.
So you're not supposed to do that. They did it, and then Hashem said to Aaron, that was a cute trick, but let's not have anybody do that anymore.
Mhm.
In other words, Hashem said, I received their gift of their devotion and their soul, but that's not what I created people for. That I have angels for that.
Mhm.
Don't need that anymore.
Mhm.
So the same thing, that's essentially what he's saying here is, if we could experience, if we could feel the revelation of this kind of godliness that we're receiving and that we're merging with when we study Torah, if we could feel it, we wouldn't survive the experience. How great is it? It's so great that the spiritual worlds cannot receive that kind of light. So if the spiritual worlds cannot receive that kind of light, and it remains or makif,
But they can
Then-
still connect. Or not,
to what?
to the limb.
No, we're talking about is merging with God.
Yeah.
The level of godliness that we merge with when we study Torah is literally God's intellect and will. When we merge with God's will and wisdom, that's a kind of oneness with God that nothing else can experience. Even the highest spiritual worlds can't experience that, because the higher spiritual worlds are created from a ray of light from that level, but not that. That remains makif. That remains transcendent from the spiritual world. And yet, even though the spiritual world cannot handle that kind of light, we are able to receive and merge with that, thanks to the fact that we're oblivious to it. So, he's going to say, haven't gotten there yet, but if you can think about this, and he'll get to this in a couple of lines. Let's read a little bit more. Ubazei Yuvan, and now you'll understand. Lama godla ma'oid malas ha'esek b'Torah yoser mikol ha'mitzvos. That's, now you understand why the greatness of the study of Torah is much greater than the greatness of any of the mitzvahs. Va'afila mitfila, even greater than prayer. Shehi yichod olam ha'esal yonim. Even greater than prayer, which is when you reunify the higher worlds with their source in God, and it's very lofty, awesome stuff. Yet studying Torah is higher than all of them, is greater than all of them. Remember, I said last week, 2 weeks ago, the study of Torah is greater than all of the other mitzvahs in the context of the project of merging with God, becoming one with God. As far as God getting what he needs from the world, there are other mitzvahs also, and some of them are more important in other ways. Nevertheless, in the context of becoming one with Hashem, studying Torah doesn't have any rival. The fact that somebody who is studying Torah has to stop studying because of some other mitzvah, like it's time to daven. You're in the middle of studying Torah and it's time to daven. You close the book and you go daven. Why? If Torah study is so much greater, why should you stop? So first of all, back in the days of the Talmud, there were the kind of scholars who were so completely 101% devoted to studying Torah that they did not stop to study to daven or to do other mitzvahs. It's called Torasei u'menasei, Torato u'menato. Their profession was Torah. It's like that's all they did. So they did. Everybody else we're talking about. What about everybody else? You're studying Torah and it's time to daven. You go daven. Why? So he says that's because halachically it's because Yeah, you have to do it. But you have to work because that's what you need to do to survive. But why should you stop to daven? If Torah is greater than davening, why should you stop to daven? The answer is because you're stopping anyways. You're going to stop learning anyways. So you might as well daven. In other words, when you stop to go to work, so you daven, or you time your work break for the times when it's time to daven anyways, right? But the point is, you're going to stop anyways because you're not on the level of Torah Nasa. You're not the kind of person who does nothing other than study Torah. So if you're not that guy anyways, so daven. But in reality, in theory, if you were the kind of person who never took a break for anything else, then you would not take a break for Torah study because you would not take a break from Torah study for praying because Torah study is higher. Hold that thought. Where's that coffee? You weren't eating.
Your back, Rabbi.
Yeah.
You know.
Pass that dark drink.
The dark drink.
I feel connected.
It's grape flavored. You like grapes?
Oh, yeah.
With these
And that's the straight line.
Okay.
People wait until they die and all that. They don't know. One stick through this.
So that's why you don't stop. That's why you would stop to study to do other mitzvahs like davening, even though you're middle of Torah study, which is much greater. Nevertheless, from this, back out of the parentheses, here's where it gets to the tachlis, bottom line. From this, the truly intelligent person, people of great intellectual ability, can draw down upon themselves, can bring upon themselves yirah gedola, a great fear, great awe of Hashem ba'asaka b'Torah when they study Torah. When you think into, when you contemplate the fact, you think about the fact that your nefesh and your soul and its garments, meaning thought and speech, are literally merging into a oneness, a perfect oneness with God's will from above, literally, which is being revealed in you at the time of your studying Torah, mashakol ha'olamais, which all the worlds, elyonim, the upper worlds, v'tachtonim, the lower worlds, kalacha shebekamei, they're all like nothing at that compared to that level of godliness of God. Uka'ayin v'efes mamash, they're like nothing. Ad, to the extent she'enem eslabish b'seicha mamash, that level of godliness doesn't dwell within them; it remains makif, right? It's just the makif energy which gives them their essential existence, but not anything. It's just some ray of light that encloses in them whatever they're able to tolerate, and not dissipate into nothingness because of the awesomeness of that light. And yet that's the light that's being revealed and that's merging with your soul in the moment of, if we had the intellectual capacity to really fathom this concept, it would blow our minds. And that's why it says, there's a verse that says, and God commanded us all of these statutes so that we would fear Hashem. Now think about that verse. Hashem commanded us all these statutes so that we fear Him. Yeah, but shouldn't it be the other way around? Hashem asks us to fear Him, so we should do the chukim. Why He gives us the mitzvahs so that we should fear Him? Shouldn't He give us the fear so we should do the mitzvahs? What comes first? If you don't fear Hashem, why would you do His mitzvahs? If you have no respect for Him, If you have no respect or love for him, why would you do his mitzvahs? First, you have to have an emotional relationship. Then you can tell you what to do. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, because here we're talking about what he referred to earlier as Yirah Gedolah, a great fear, a great awe, which means there are two levels in fear of Hashem. There's what is known as the higher fear, and then there's the lower fear, Yirah Tata'ah, the lower fear, Yirah Ila'ah, the higher fear. The higher fear of God, that's the Yirah Gedolah that we're talking about. He's going to explain it here.
So we show him the Nasa Nishma first. We're doing it, and then we're going to see what's going on.
But that was because of the Yirat Shamayim, because we feared Hashem. Or we loved Hashem, whichever one, but we had an emotional reason. Why would we say, yes, we'll do it if we don't have any kind of an emotional connection? There's an expression in the Gemara, you wouldn't give somebody a gift if you didn't have some love for them. So in the parentheses, again, the second parentheses, it says, Val Yira Gedola Zu Amru, it is with regard to this higher level of awe of Hashem that it says in the Mishnah, Im ein Chachma ein Yira. If you don't have wisdom, then you can't have awe. You can't have fear of Hashem. The Mishnah says, Im ein Yira ein Chachma, Im ein Chachma ein Yira. You remember there's a Mishnah that says if you don't have wheat, you can't have Torah. If you don't have Torah, you don't have food, right? If you don't, so in that same Mishnah, it says there are a bunch of different things it says there. One of them is Im ein Yira ein Chachma, Im ein Chachma ein Yira. Right. Bidiyuk.
Study it.
So the question is, if you have to have fear in order to have Chachma, and you have to have Chachma in order to have fear, how do you break in? How do you start the cycle? It's like an impossible.
When you start with something and then it goes together and then you keep
But
going.
where do you start? If you have to have Yira in order to have Chachma, and you have to have Chachma in order to have Yira,
So what it is,
how do you get in?
It says you study Torah, you get Yira.
Is
It's
it
coming
gonna be-
together. You can see as a baby a lion, and it's gonna be a beautiful. But when you grow up, 1 second.
No,
it's a
but that's
lion.
exactly what he said, no? Like to keep the mitzvot לאהבה ולראות אותו. So then you
So-
can get there.
What's exactly what he said is there are two different kinds of Yira.
נכון.
The Yira that you have to have in order to have Chachma is a much lower kind of Yira. But the kind of Yira that you have only after you have Chachma, that's the higher level. So you go into the relationship with Hashem and with Torah because of a very basic introductory level fear of God. And once you start studying Torah and you study Torah properly and you reach and you discover this, you discover what's actually happening when you're studying Torah, then you develop the much higher level of Yira.
Become more
So
proficient.
it's like when
It's a whole different kind of relationship. It's like the lower level of fear is like, I'm afraid to disappoint you.
Mhm.
I'm afraid of punishment. I'm afraid of, the higher level is just, you're just absolutely awestruck by Hashem. You're not afraid of a punishment. You're not afraid of disappointment. You're just plain
kind
old.
of respect, like it's like when I was younger, my mom told me to never ignore her, right? If she calls me, to answer. So if she called me, I answer because I knew it's better answer. Now if my mom calls me, no matter what I do, I answer because it's my mom. I don't afraid. It's not the same thing. Like when I was a kid, I knew I have to.
Right. You start with a low level of fear and it becomes real respect. So when it says that if we had the intellectual ability to contemplate what happens and the kind of oneness that we create with Hashem when we study Torah, we would be blown away. We would draw down upon ourselves this higher level of fear, this Yirah Gedolah. What he's saying is that Yirah Gedolah, that's the higher level of fear that the Mishnah is referring to when it says, if you don't first have the Chachma, you'll never get to this level of fear. Although it's true you need to have fear of Hashem in order to develop Chachma, we're not talking about that level of
Chokhmah is something you can develop.
Yeah.
Like a dumb person, so you sit down and study Torah and become smart.
Well,
Well,
to some extent, yeah. Maybe not to the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, but yeah, you can you can expand your mind, yeah.
Does that mean if you rule with fear, it'll turn
Yeah,
into ruling with
he's gonna
respect at
pass
some
the
point?
test, maybe in the 10 times, but he's gonna continue.
Change it
learning.
from fear to respect. Yeah, from fear to awe.
Sometimes 10 times,
The real
sometimes 20 times.
You know, it's like the difference between
אם הבנים שחקו מים,
המוח משתנה.
if you're, you know, the feeling you have when you find yourself in a very dangerous situation, then you have that same kind of physiological experience. You have the same symptoms, you know, your sweaty palms and your hair stands up on your back. And when you see the flashing police car lights behind you, like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid is about to happen to you? You can lose some money and get a couple of points on your license. Why are you panicking? Because there's something, and professionally, it's called, oh, there's a word for it. Command presence. You're in awe of being in the presence of somebody who has that kind of authority.
Or like a, something like a table saw, turn on the table saw for the first time.
Right, so that's fear.
Yeah.
I can really get hurt here.
Yeah.
But
But once you learn how to work with it and what it's able to do, then you respect it.
right, but you still, you respect it because of the danger.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that you can have the same experience that feels like fear when there isn't actually any danger. It's the command presence that you're afraid of. You're in fear, you're in awe of someone with that kind of authority. Now, if someone with that kind of authority, what's his authority? He can give you a ticket, it can cost you $250 and a couple of points on your license, like I said. If you multiply that by infinite to the creator of heaven and earth, of course it's gonna feel like fear, but you're not actually afraid of anything. It's not fear, it's awe. But that's the higher level. That's when your sense of fear has graduated through your intellect, through study of Torah. Your introductory fear has graduated into a true awe of Hashem. That's the higher level that's the Yirah Gedolah that we're talking about.
Okay.
זה מוזר, כאילו, אני חושבת כאילו עדיין יש חודש.
Now, this is also why V'Torah Niknas Etzla Dar'a Ledarta. Tar'a Ledarta. That's with regard to this level of fear of Hashem. The Torah is referred to as Tar'a Ledarta, which means the door to the dwelling. The Torah becomes the door to the dwelling. Like what? Do you build a door because you have a house, or do you build a house because you have a door? You build a door because you have to get into the house. And yet the what is this? It's in Kabbalah. I don't remember where it's from. I don't remember where this quote is from. Tar'a Ledarta. That the Torah is like the door to the house. How could you say Torah somewhere in Torah? How could you say that Torah is the door to the house? What's the house? If Torah isn't, the answer is fear of Hashem. So Torah is the entrance way. Torah is the corridor to fear of Hashem. Isn't Torah the main thing? The answer is the doorway to Torah is the lower level of fear. And then Torah becomes the doorway to the higher level of fear. As if to say that the whole purpose of Torah is to get you to that kind of relationship with Hashem, where Hashem is so real to you that you're in constant awe of Hashem. As is explained elsewhere. Ella, the problem is the lav kol moicha savilda yira kazu. Not every mind, not every one of us can handle this kind of this level of awe. Even the person whose mind, whose intellectual capacity cannot handle this kind of awe of Hashem, not all of it and not even part of it, because of the lowliness of the soul in its source. The come from the lower levels of spiritual whatever. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried. This is not a problem. The Alter Rebbe is saying, because you can still perform the mitzvahs perfectly. This doesn't prevent you from performing mitzvahs, as will be explained later on in Tanya. So the bottom line of chapter 23 is if we had the capacity to understand what's happening to us, with us, when we do mitzvahs and we study Torah, we would be permanently awestruck.
And die.
No, we wouldn't. Because we have the veil of the body covering. But we would be in absolute, utter awe, always. We would be in tremendous awe of Hashem. If we understood what we were accomplishing by studying Torah, we would be amazed, to put it mildly.
So then there are people that say, okay, so if that's the goal, let me do it. That's what I'll do. And miracles will take care of the rest.
But Torah says, then you start studying Torah, and the Torah says you have to go get a job.
What does it say in the Torah?
And it said you have to Shabbat Yitzhara, you have to make the world a livable place, and you have to feed your family, and you have to do the mitzvot.
Shevet is a schar. Shevet is a schar, we're studying, Shevet is a
Okay, so they had a deal. You can make a deal like that.
Yeah, if you find someone to support.
Yisachar and Zebulun deal. That's Shabbat.